to Laurence McKenna channel. We have got good news because Darwin Nunez has literally put pen to paper for Liverpool. He's had the photos taken. They've already been remedied and put out there. And, well, Liverpool have spent some money this summer. Not even with the first signing either. There are other signings apparently in the pipeline as well. Someone even saying there might be a midfielder in the mix somewhere. And then on top of that, obviously, they've also got Carvalho. I get the feeling that there's probably going to be a backup right back also signed, considering we'll probably get Nico Williams go. Anyway, Darwin Nunez, right? Darwin Nunez, a guy who was pursued by other big European sides, other sides who were looking to do a build rather than a rebuild. Other sides who rated him so highly that at one point they were touting, I think 100 million euros just straight up on this kid's name. Instead, Liverpool have gone 80 and 20. It's the kind of deal making that Liverpool are kind of famous for now, and that's probably something that kind of precedes them going into a lot of these deals. A lot of people think, well, we don't want to get screwed by them. We want to get a good end of this deal. We want to make sure we get enough money, which is probably why people like Manchester United, Newcastle United, and all these other big names were put out there to make Liverpool think, you've got to spend something on this. You actually have to tempt the guy. But the real tempting factor was apparently the Champions League football. By the way, a really big thing right now seems to be that Liverpool do drop hints on the kind of players that they like. Both Klopp and Virgil van Dijk, and I think one other player, I can't remember who, has actually name-checked Darwin Nunez in the last few months. They did similar things with Timo Werner when clearly they were interested in him. I should know how legal this is, but ultimately they were praising a guy in public. So there are these kind of breadcrumbs that Liverpool drop throughout all these times. And it seems also that the players drop breadcrumbs as well. Darwin Nunez, of course, himself, liking a couple of things on Instagram and also just giving people little hints here and there. And of course, the huge factor was Liverpool had Champions League ahead of Manchester United, ahead of Newcastle United, ahead of a couple other sides. And I also think being the club that competed with Man City last year will have been something that Nunez will have looked at. Also, don't forget what it's like to play at Anfield. Stuff like that, well, that clinches transfers. And experiences against these sides, seeing how difficult it is to play against them, having people praise you and having contact with certain members of those sides, also just being in close proximity in general, makes a big difference. The other tempting factor was apparently playing in this Liverpool team, as probably there have been some real promises made to this kid, but there was also the possibility of working with Klopp, with working with a team that at least this season competed on every front possible. And whilst they did win 2 cups and they would have felt slightly underwhelmed by some of the other results, Darwin Nunez is stepping into a side which will rebuild their form and their shape and their build-up around the likes of him. Because let's face it, with Mane and Salah both moving on, most probably within the next couple of months and then year, we're probably looking at Liverpool changing a bit of their structure, probably changing a bit of their build-up, also probably just changing the personnel and making them younger. Carvalho is young, Nunez is young, Diaz, younger than his peak and about to go into it. So all of these signings have got a lot of commonality between them. It will be interesting to see what formation they play in, how regular someone like Carvalho plays, and if Nunez has played as that 9 in the middle of a 2, or whether he's played as a centre forward with someone like Salah just off him, which is similar to the way that he played at Roma, or similar to the way apparently that he played at Basel at times. So there's lots of different possibilities that Nunez opens up. But there's also a lot of people doubting whether Nunez is worth that money. And sure, I'm sure Liverpool are used to dealing with this at this point. When Jota signed for the club, a lot of people said, is that really a good signing? When Salah signed for the club, there were Juventus journalists who said, I just don't see him tearing it up in the Premier League. Mane, similarly, there was derision. Manchester United fans didn't even want him at Manchester United. Firmino, who? Was the cry from so many people at that point? Do we even know what some backwater Brazilian who played in Germany for a little while, if he's any good? This guy's now won the Champions League, the Premier League. I'm pretty sure that's everything that he could have won in the UK because he's all won it in the club. Nunez is an exciting prospect. There is pace. There is clearly great technique with his finishing, even if a lot of people say it's distinctly one-footed. I gave you all the stats in the last video. Thank you very much, Sam Maguire. But after that, you've also clearly got a guy who steps into the mold of the South Americans that Liverpool have loved. Obviously, there is another Uruguayan who had a different reputation and maybe brought Liverpool into disrepute at times, but footballing-wise, that guy was incredible. And Liverpool fell in love with him for the football. But what we don't want is another player, and especially another South American player, who harbours dreams of playing somewhere else and sees Liverpool as a stage to put himself forward. because those kind of people never leave on good terms, and they never really remembered as well as maybe they should be. But Nunez is 22. He'll probably, the likelihood is most people are going to say this kid isn't going to finish his career at Liverpool, but it is a 6-year contract, and reportedly a 6-year very big contract as well. Also probably showing that Liverpool are willing to put their financial might into the market if they feel that it's measured, but also if they feel that it's worth it. Also if they feel that there is. And let's face it, Liverpool have taken more risk recently. I mean, the likes of Diaz coming in was, according to some analysts, including Sam Maguire, a good friend of mine, who said this guy was running hot when he was then signed by the club, and he was having a good period of form. There's clearly some stats that underline that people go, okay, well, maybe this was the reason we signed him. Maybe this is the reason that he's getting into the side. It's not only that, but he just looks like a player, right? Like, I get it. There are a lot of people out there who are like, oh, it's the stats, and it is clearly this, and it's clearly that. Sometimes you just like the look of a guy as well. The eye test is more than just people going, oh, he scores good goals. The eye test is also just looking at him and going, I see an ego on that guy. I see an ego on Mo Salah. I see an ego on Mane. I see an ego on a lot of these frontline guys. And I see a guy who clearly is hungry. It's also interesting, by the way, to see Liverpool signing so many people from maybe what they consider to be a slightly underappreciated league. Obviously, where they've stepped up into the Champions League, you can see some sort of data there as well. And there must be something underlying that. It may also be, by the way, that a lot of the time, Liverpool have tracked these people for years. And they see that he is worth X or Y or Z. And I'll remind you, the last time that Liverpool have spent this much money, or at least close to this much money, on a player, we know how good those signings at this level have been, right? We're thinking about the Allisons, we're thinking about the Van Dijks, we're thinking probably about, there's no one really else in that category who sort of, you get what I'm saying. Anyway, the point is, Darwin Nunez will be lining up for Liverpool next year. It could be 4-2-4, it could be 4-3-3, it could be the beginning of a change of a shape, it could be that it's an adaptable style and shape like Liverpool have been wanting to do more recently. It could also be, by the way, that Liverpool see something in him that they will recoach. So all of the stats that we've been going through, whilst they are wholly relevant and very important, may also be underlying stats of a change in system for Liverpool, which then means that Liverpool try and get something else out of him. They might see that the pace will be useful in a different way. They might see that what most people accuse him is a very one-footed nature, and he's not Ryan Babel by any stretch of the imagination, but you get what I mean. A lot of people see how he has to adjust his feet in order to shoot always with the right. But they might see qualities in him that they think he fits in here. And let's face it, it isn't just the fact that Michael Edwards have left and Julian's come in. It is the fact that there are coaches in this Liverpool team that will be saying, I see this, I need this. We need this for next year. If we're going to rebuild without Mane, then we need volume here. We need this here. It may also be, by the way, that Liverpool, whilst letting the likes of Taki Minamino go, Origi, all these other guys, are looking to replace those numbers with a set of numbers from one guy, not just maybe a piece that fits into something when you need a very specific thing. By the way, Taki was fantastic, and Origi is a cult figure. But sometimes when you're looking to change things, you don't go piece out, same piece in. You go new piece in. And a rebuild, very often, it's a good thing to not be thinking he replaced him. It's a good thing to think this guy comes in and makes up the numbers there, does this. Because you get into this very human but unhealthy way of thinking about players where it's like, oh, you're just this, or you just fit into here, or this is the way that Liverpool play, therefore if you don't fit X, Y, Z, you don't do this, this, and this. But there is obviously also the accusation at Liverpool that Klopp in the past has said, I don't want to spend a lot of cash. They are spending quite a lot of cash in this market. And granted, in this market, there is an inflated amount of money that needs to be spent in order to get the very top names. And they're probably thinking, how much do we have to spend, and how much do we need to spend, and how much should we spend in order to remain within FFP, on target in terms of making our financials every year, but also just working out, if we give Mane this contract, but we give this guy this transfer, if we can sell. It probably means, by the way, that they have got something for Mane, or they see something in the pipeline for Mane, or Mane is on his way out and they think they can get X for him, or also that they will get Y for whoever. There are names leaving and there'll be money coming into the club. But Liverpool, I get it. Like, we don't feel as a fan base that we should have to justify signings. But the fact is FFG want to balance the books. They want to make the stats work along with the finance. And they want to make this team a team that is sustainable, not just a side which is bought on whim or bought on, oh, that guy seems good, so we'll just get him. He's going to fix a problem. And by the way, there are very few players that Klopp and his coaching staff haven't improved in some way, or haven't changed, or haven't adapted, or haven't said, have you tried this? Because it isn't just about basically going, fit that piece in there and Klopp is going to improve them. It's about how they're going to build forward as a side. It's about how Liverpool move forward formationally as well, but also in terms of the personnel within the team. You can't have disruptive players. I mean, we've all got that famous James Milner quote now. We didn't sign, we signed good guys. That's part of it. They're not just going to be walking into meetings and going, yeah, you can play the football, in you come. They want people who they know the personality of, or they can assess the personality of. They're going to be going around getting reports. That's why it's not just to put pen to paper and we'll see what happens. By the way, this could have dragged on all summer for some other teams, and it would have dragged on all summer for some other sides. If Liverpool feel the urgency, they spend the money urgently. Consistently, there have been stats backing every Liverpool transfer. And I get it, like those stats will change and different players will have different emphasis in different areas. And there's probably things that we aren't seeing in the same ways we didn't see things in X player and Y player and X player. But now we are. And I have trust in these guys who run the numbers. I have trust in Klopp and probably Pep Lijnders in order to improve these guys. So shouldn't we all? Not only that, but I also have trust in the older guys within this team to bring these guys into the fold and say, this is how we play. I've also kind of factored that in as an improving factor for a lot of these guys. If you've been willing and, I want to say willing and ready to play within a side in the Champions League and put yourself on the line for whoever it is that you come from, whichever Portuguese side, whichever side. Imagine coming into Liverpool where there is a feeling right now around Klopp, around the other players, around this squad in general. There is an element of excitement. There is an element of, what am I joining here? Am I joining something special? Am I joining something where I'm going to be a generational player? Because that's what Mane leaves as. And a lot of people, when we signed Mane, didn't perceive him in that way. By the way, a great thing that Liverpool are really good at and very rarely get credit for is breaking, I don't want to say convention, breaking stereotypes about certain players. People have stereotypes about the African players that a lot of people have signed. People have stereotypes around X player, Y player, Z player. Brazilians a couple of years ago were seen as a certain kind of goalkeeper. And granted, using your feet is typically a Brazilian quality, I'll get that. But did you think that Alisson would be this kind of guy, this kind of good? Did you think it was possible to get that kind of form out of a goalkeeper? I'm just saying. There are stereotypes being broken all over the place. And Klopp is great at looking beyond that and seeing the people. So are the leaders within the side. Virgil van Dijk, Jordan Henderson, Milner, who signed another contract on diminished terms, showing how much he wants to play, showing how much he wants to continue his career, showing how important it is that you maintain certain elements of this team. There's other leaders in the team, by the way. I just listed those guys. Alisson's one as well. Robertson's one as well. Trent's clearly one as well. There are plenty. Fabinho, Thiago's clearly an experienced leader. Mo Salah leads by a different kind of example. Jordan Henderson, obviously the captain. I'll finish on this. This is incredibly exciting because there are now two young, hungry strikers in the league who've just signed for the previous season's two title competitors. Haaland over here, Darwin Nunez over here. And by the way, don't you just love the name Darwin Nunez? Darwin is a cool name. Nunez. The previous Nunez we had, sure. But you get me? Like, there is just something exciting around having the possibility of this new player, seeing him in that kit, seeing him in this moment and going, what are the possibilities here? Let me know in the comments below, what do you think the possibilities are? Glad to be back on the channel. I've taken a little hiatus to edit a little documentary, which is coming out on Tuesday or Wednesday, one or the other on the Liverpool channel. It is exciting times to be a Liverpool fan, and very exciting, obviously, for me. I will be back talking about that documentary at some point later in the week, promoting it, but also just trying to give you guys some insight into what actually happened whilst being around the entirety of this squad. And I will chat to you guys later. Have a good day. Much love. Bye. Oh, we just signed Darwin Nunez at the start of the summer. Is there something else big to come? We'll see. I'm just saying. If Mane leaves as a legend. But Darwin Nunez comes as raw potential. Oh, by the way, yeah, he's not just raw. There are stats to back this stuff up, and there's a lot of people at the moment going, well done, you've just signed Andy Carroll, or you've just signed this, or you've signed that. Sure, he's tall. Sure, he puts his hair back in a, what is that, like a knot? I don't know. Liverpool don't just do things on hunches anymore. We don't just do things on, yeah, I think the kid kicks the ball good, by the way, so we'll sign that guy. If Liverpool believe in it, Klopp believe, and if all of those analytics guys believe, so do I. Hats off to you guys. You've signed something at the beginning of the summer for a very big fee. It gets people incredibly excited, and it does put a lot of pressure on the kid. But Liverpool seem to be very good at cocooning people off from that, at making something out of these guys, at saying, hey, there's potential here, let's reach the best of that. There is a culture at the club of doing that right now. I know a lot of people are talking about Liverpool falling off, about Liverpool losing Mane, whether they'll be able to replace those numbers, whether he even fulfills this potential. And sure, Boovy says it, people coming from that league are a coin flip. And to some extent, I agree. But you do not spend 80 million euros on a coin flip. I have faith in Klopp, I have faith in these guys. And the main message is welcome, Darwin Nunez.